Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are with Ecology by Design from Asheville, North Carolina. Please welcome Teresa Rogerson back with us today, talking about her work as a landscape designer, consultant, project management, with her years of experience changing the landscape of your home, your business, your loved one spaces. She has a knack for this. Clearly, a lot of education, a lot of experience, and we're excited she's back with us today. How are you?
Good, Jill. How are you? Thanks.
I'm doing fantastic. Still a little cold in New York. You're down in Asheville. How's the weather there?
It's better. Yeah, we're thawing out some.
Oh, well, it's all right. We'll get through. I know this is your busy time. You're doing a lot of prep work, but for those that may not know, of course, first, how do we contact you?
You can go to my website, www.ecobydesign.net. You can also find me on Houzz, the kind of social media for all things home and garden, Houzz. And you can search for the pro there on Ecology by Design.
All right. Well, for example, we talk now a few times in regards to a lot of how you're beautifying and you're changing and increasing the property's value and usage. What did you want to share with us for today?
Well, I thought today we could talk a little bit kind of about the process of working with a landscape designer and kind of a little bit of day in the life of a
Oh,
landscape designer.
I love it. Okay, break it down for us. Yeah, how
Yeah.
does it work?
Because I feel like a lot of it is somewhat mystifying to people and they don't, and I've been kind of carrying this torch with you and with others about landscape design not really being appreciated as much as its full potential. The full potential of design not really being appreciated and being frankly undervalued. And so I think breaking down a little bit of what it looks like to work with a landscape designer may help bring some clarity and understanding on that front, and to help show potential clients or just anybody how much a difference landscape can design, not just to the way your house looks and your bottom line, but actually how you live and how you enjoy your time, and even just how you feel in the world. Um, so, yeah. Any questions before that? Before I kind
Yeah,
of.
well, what do you do? You wake up. I mean, you must have projects you have consultations, you have a lot, but I mean, I don't even understand the process. Is it hand to paper? Is it all 3D imaging these days? How are you? Yeah, explain it. Guide us through it.
Well, first of all, I am extremely old school, and I'm okay with that. So I use pencil and paper, and I spend a lot of time on the site. And so what I do is, you're right, I do wake up. I wake up first and greet the day. And so if you've hired me to be a landscape designer, then I will let you know first and make sure I have permission, but come to your house and kind of snoop around. Generally I've asked the client to send, if they have a survey or architectural plans of their house on the property, any kind of image where I can see their property outline with the house on it is very useful. So I'll ask them to send me that. Sometimes people don't have that, older
Then they got
houses.
to contact the town, right? Isn't there a process? But still should be able to get your survey and all, right?
Yeah, yeah. And nowadays with Zillow and stuff like that, I can simply go online and
Satellite images. You could just hover over their house in your own drone, but you don't do that.
yeah, you can't pretty much. And so I get that image so I can see where the house is on the site. And then I take that image with me to your site, and I'll take some photos. Those photos end up being great before and after pictures. And they're very important because so many times people are just like, what do you need the photos for, or whatever, and it's like, oh, just wait. First of all, I need them so I can see some of these subtleties of your property, but also afterwards you're going to be flabbergasted at the difference, because it's hard for people to see just how good it's going to be um after. I've noticed that people are just blown away, and I am too, and that's part of the reason I love this work, is because the gratification is so it's very present after installing a landscape, after the cleanup and getting the old stuff out is gratifying, and then installing a new design is gratifying, and then when the plants grow. Okay, so I'm at your place. I'm snooping around. I'm making measurements because I need to know where all the utilities lines are. There may be a gas line there. There's always drainage issues, almost always. I need to see how the water is running on your property. I need to see where the light falls. I need to see where the walls of your house are that are creating shade or that are making like a slippery
Yeah.
area, where ice might form because the sun's not reaching it, and therefore it might not be the best place for gathering or for walking. And so I'm kind of OCD, no disrespect to OCD. We're not supposed to throw
No,
these
no.
terms around, but I'm kind of obsessively going over um, more or less every square inch of your property, and looking at all of the constraints, meaning the things that are challenging, like things I just mentioned, or the fact that there's only this much space, or the fact that it's too wide open, all of the constraints, the things that create challenges within which the design in which inform the design, the constraints inform the design. The solution is in the problem, I like to say. um so I'm looking at all the constraints, but I'm also taking note of all the opportunities, because opportunities are there with constraints. And I mean, we could get philosophical and we could talk about life, like challenges being opportunities for growth, right? But in a landscape, it's very true. It's like, oh wow, I only have this one narrow little area between my house and my neighbor's fence, or gosh, any there's a gazillion constraints, and I'm sure anybody listening is like, oh yeah, I've got some problems. But that's where the opportunity lies, to like, oh hey, you've got this narrow area that nothing else is happening. Well, then let's use that for um well, the other day we decided we would use that area for an outdoor shower and a bike washing station for a client, because they're avid mountain bikers. They love to shower outdoors. And this one little hallway, basically outside between their house wall and a big brick retaining wall, there's nothing else going on there. And it's completely hidden from view from anybody. So, outdoor shower, like if you want to take all your clothes off, you can do that. Um, and otherwise, this space would kind of be nothing. Not only that, around the back of the house, it's too public. You don't want to put your outdoor shower there. So, and the hallway that I've been calling it is right off of the driveway. So they come home from mountain biking, they just roll their bikes just a few more feet to the bike washing station, and then they strip down, and then they can hang up their stuff on the hooks on the wall. And now all of a sudden, an alleyway that had nothing going on has something going on that's super useful and super enjoyable to them. So backing up to my process, when I'm on your site, I'm thinking about all this. I'm looking like a child in a candy store, almost, at like, oh, look at everything that could be done. And in a world where money grows on trees and we can just spend whatever we want, so many things, I mean, just everything is possible. But one of the constraints is finances. So I take information that I've gathered. I talk to you like, okay, let's get real. What is your budget? Um, and a lot of people are just like, I have no idea. I don't know how much this stuff costs. And that's when I break the news to them that, landscaping is if you've ever done a remodel in your house and you've redone a kitchen or a bathroom, and it's like, oh wow, that was $30,000 just for a bathroom. It's Landscaping is like outdoor remodeling. So
Yeah.
it costs about that. It's a comparable cost to get, and so I tell people that to kind of to let them know. But what you've got to understand is, when you spend that money, it's outside, it's not inside under a roof, but that is square footage.
Wait. At this time, I should just interject because Ashley emailed me back and she mentioned that to the person who wrote in, Peter, actually asked about how do you make a landscape sustainable? And I think this kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking about as well, the cost, but you are a sustainable designer, correct? So you are making changes like to help people save on their money, save on their water bills, less maintenance and saving time. So you're also saving money that way. So I think this question actually goes hand in hand. If you don't mind touching upon the sustainability factor that Peter from Lake Grove asked about, or yeah, great.
Yeah, totally. Making a landscape sustainable is, yes, I went to the Conway School of Landscape Design specifically because it's ecological landscape design. And so what I'm trying to do is reduce the inputs, reduce the cost, reduce the maintenance and all the just doing. I just kind of want the landscape to be so that I can sit in it and be and enjoy it and use it. So I use one way to do this. I use native plants or plants that are perfectly adapted to the area and are not going to cause problems or outcompete or go crazy invasive, which is a common. Now people are starting to it's starting to be more commonly understood about invasive plants that will just kind of take over. And then like in the South, we have kudzu. If anybody knows about kudzu, that's one
Oh, I don't.
very
What's that? I'm sorry.
it well, do you have what English ivy is up in New York,
No, I
up on
don't.
the
Do not. I
trees?
know ivy. My dad has ivy plants that's hanging. Maybe it's not ivy, hanging down from the second floor that have been growing for years. But maybe that's a different type of ivy.
It might be English ivy. It grows up around trees and kind of suffocates them. But kudzu was brought over as erosion control from Asia, and it went out of control. And it looks like someone dropped a blanket over the forest, and so you just see this wavering the trees underneath a blanket of kudzu, and it's cutting out all the light that gets to the forest floor, and it kills. And it's a perfect example of like, oh wow, our intention is to help erosion, so let's bring something from the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Generally that doesn't work, so I like to stick with the native plants that and planting appropriately. So if you have a hot, sunny, dry area in the Appalachian Mountains, which we totally have those, you're not going to put rhododendrons and mountain laurels and stuff that grows in rich soils in the woods. So you're going to plant right place, right plant um, for the conditions. So that's one way to make a landscape sustainable. Also, I look for ways to passively manage water. And we talked about this last time, like with rain gardens and making sure your landscape rolls away from the house, not towards it. So sending water away and sending water to places where plants are planted that actually want that water. So you get the win-win. You get the water away from the property or where it needs to be, and you get plants to take advantage of that extra water. Um, and then I use materials wise for hardscape and whatever. It's hard because if we're going to do a flagstone patio, that flagstone got chopped out of a mountain somewhere. So it's still using resources, but that flagstone patio is, if I do it without a bunch of concrete and I lay it over the road base and stuff that are materials that it could all be taken up and reused, and the weeds won't go through it. And so it's not a bunch of concrete. It's still as beautiful, I think much more beautiful. And then if I do use concrete for patios, then I like to have nice 4-inch gaps sometimes between the concrete pavers where decorative gravel can go, or plant like a nice little ground cover like creeping thyme or something
Ooh,
like
I'm just
that.
hearing like water trickling down and just a beautiful, the sound of like
Yeah.
pebbles on the floor. Beautiful.
So making the patios that I do build um able to take some of the water that falls into the ground below it pervious rather than impervious. So these are easy ways to make a landscape sustainable.
Beautiful. Well, there's your answer, Peter, if you're listening. Thank you so much. And let's, before we continue talking about the process and your work as a landscape designer, Tree, remind us of all the ways we can reach out to you. Thank you again.
Yeah. So my website is ecobydesign.net. That's ECOBY design.net. And I'm also on Houzz, HOUZZ, kind of the social media of everything home and garden, similar to Pinterest, but way better and not as hard to get into. But I'm on Houzz, houzz.com/pro/tree. You can find me there. And then finally, my phone number. Should I give you that?
Yes, sure. Of course. Any form is good.
510. That's the Oakland area code where I spent 20 years in the Bay Area. 510-227-7804.
Perfect. Thank you again. All right, let's continue the process of your job and how it all works. I love the OCD factor because that's a good thing. And for someone who is, very focused and wants to learn everything and, in a sense, compulsive about every little detail, that is a good thing in your field. So you mentioned that before, but I'm like, no, I'm OCD with things myself, but I think that gets the job done, taking specific notes when I'm talking to someone, making sure I'm asking the right questions. These are things I think OCD could be a really good thing. And clearly, you are very thorough. So, what other insight to the landscape design do you have for us?
Absolutely. Yeah. The OCD thing, in a world where our attention spans are getting cut by phones and by things moving fast, my mission is to create a landscape where you can go into it, and because I've spent so much time poring over every square inch and looking at all the different views from inside the house, from when you drive up, from here, from over there, from the neighbors, to where we might place trees or a shrub forest, which is one of my favorite things to plant, and I'll tell you what that is in a minute. Because I've gone over all of this so, over and over, and kind of like, as we say in art, like massaged it to where the design comes, it kind of reveals itself over the toil and the OCD factor. Then you have a landscape that when you walk out into it, then you suddenly just kind of drop in, so to speak. The frenetic nature of life just, and it doesn't take much. Okay, so I'm at your site. I'm looking at all the different views. I'm taking measurements at, okay, where does the sun rise, and what do I see out of this window? Because your landscape is supposed to look good from the inside out. It's supposed to look good when you're from the outside in or towards the house. And then I'll go home and go to the office and create a preliminary landscape design. And so that's going to mean ideas, putting down on paper, collecting websites and links to show you, and a list of plants to see if we're on the same page about like textures and colors and the aesthetic of the place. And this is after having spoken with you for a couple of hours at kind of like a get to know you and what are your hopes and dreams meeting. And then we'll meet after that preliminary design is complete. Usually that's about 2 weeks after starting. And that's when things really start to get exciting, because the client sees like, oh wow, they can see some kind of materialization of something that maybe has just been in their head or an idea that they've had. And then it's like, oh no, some of these things are actually possible. And also they'll see like, wow, I never thought this yard was so useful or had so much that could be done with it. And that's where I'm like, yeah, you could do this and more. Because these little lost corners of the yard, everybody has them. Even in a condominium, little lost corners where nothing's going on are opportunities for beautification or something where you could actually use it, like that bike cleaning station and outdoor shower. And so at that preliminary design meeting, we go over lots of things. Usually that's a couple of hours. And then I take that information back to the drawing board literally and put and make adjustments and refine. And then within a month's time, we have a final design that is, for some clients, it's important that something on paper, like a like architectural drawings, where you can hold the paper like this and you can pin it on the wall, and you can, some people like to tackle projects on their own over time, so they can go to the design and say, honey, this year we're going to do the such and such, and so they can say, okay, so we've got our measurements and we're going to tackle that, and then next year we're going to do the shrub forest planting, and so kind of piece it out like that for DIY people or people who want to hire their own subcontractors or whatnot. Also, that architectural drawing, I would also give that to a contractor who's going to install, so that we have a document, so that things aren't lost in translation, because verbal is one thing, but having it on paper. Um, and then comes the time for the project management, which is me being on site to make sure that the design is being executed true to form. And there's always adjustments on site versus in theory on paper. I mean, any architect or builder will tell you that it's one thing to have plans, it's another thing to put it in reality. But the plan is essential for getting to a certain point on the site. Um, and then project management to make sure things go well, and then to even down to like placing the trees. I'll carry the big bucket over there and I'll put it down, and I'll go back into the living room and look. It's like, nope, 2 more inches. This is where that detail stuff. Go outside, push it back 6 feet. No, it's way too. And so all those iterations, making it eventually turn into something that's really awesome. And so that's why you pay for landscape design.
Yeah. And do it the right way. Do it that way first. For those of you maybe new to the podcast, I told Tree this a few years ago, and I wanted a pool, and invested in hiring the landscape designer to give me the big overview of everything. And it's the one thing I'm so thankful and grateful for, because some people can do it all at once. I can't. So you do things in stages, but you have the exact measurements, the exact placements. You can actually see, visualize where everything is going to go. Like you mentioned, the sun is going to be in over here. You should put the garden over here. Don't put it in the shade. It was just the most helpful thing. And I had friends who have done opposite, wish they would have done what I did, because now they regret their yard because things are not in the right spot and they're trying to add to it, but it's not working out because they put things maybe where they shouldn't have been, could have been in a better spot. So it is an investment. And, for those of you that really love your property, care about your property, have the means, this is what you do. And it's the perfect thing. By the way, on her website, you should check out. She has some of her photos on there, and it's always good to see some of her work. And how would you describe yourself as a landscape designer? Because everyone kind of has their own style, but again, you also commit to the client, and if they want something certain, of course, you'll give them what they want, but of course, your knowledge and input, may sway them another way.
Right. I mean, yes, exactly. It's definitely important that the client has to be satisfied, or else I won't be satisfied and I won't have a job, so that has to happen. But I like to dig deeper, like, okay, you say you want one thing, but what does that really mean? Like, what do you really want? So we kind of dig deep. It's philosophical. But as far as my style, I'm a mix of nice modern straight modern lines, and then with wild nature. So kind of the whole spectrum. I love the contemporary straight lines that we can get with materials like concrete and stone and cut stone, and then juxtapose that with just kind of a wild and ranging grow things growing. So I'm not the kind of person who has like necessarily like little rounded shrubs in a row. I'm kind of, or sometimes I'll use those, the Italian cypresses, the ones that look like little teardrops in the landscape of Tuscany or whatever. That's a very linear element. So I can put those in a row in a circle around a hot tub, say, to give privacy. But so the mix between organic and kind of crazy with very geometric and contemporary. So old and new together. I don't know if I could describe that in one word, but hip. I'm a hip
Right?
landscape designer.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I like the hipness of it. All right. Well, speaking of, we got 2 more minutes left here. How did you want to kind of sum up for today?
Yeah, let me just tell you what a shrub forest is and get people
Sure.
excited. Maybe like, maybe I need to call her for a shrub forest. It's we know what trees are. They grow tall, they provide shade, all that. Something that can come to life more quickly than waiting for a tree to grow, because sometimes we're starting from scratch and people are like, I don't have 30 years to wait for a tree. But shrubs that can get 6 feet tall, 7, 8 feet tall, so that you get privacy,
Yeah.
you get habitat for birds and butterflies and all of that. You get blossoms, color, and you don't have a lawn to mow. So you can pack in different flowering and just beautiful evergreen, also shrubs, to create an environment where you have privacy, like to create a little nook, where
Mm-hmm.
instead of having a fence beside me, I have a shrub forest that
Wow. Yeah.
is my height or a little taller, so that I have that privacy and the other benefits without having to just build a stark fence.
Wow.
Not to
Amazing.
mention the benefits for habitat, for especially for the birds. And
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing this. Let's remind everyone how we can contact you, please, darling.
yeah, ecobydesign.net, ECOBY design.net, and house. I'm on houzz.com/pro/tree.
Awesome. I love it. And just so fitting your nickname. Who gave you the nickname Tree originally? When did that come into play? Just curious.
I was working at a pizza joint when in high school, and my yeah, my manager called me Tree Rollins because he loved the basketball player named
Yeah.
Tree.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you
And I'm
so
really
much.
tall. I'm like 6'3".
There you
So
go. Thank you. For those that didn't know, I remember I was waiting for her to say it, but thank you so much, sweetheart. You have a fantastic day.
thanks,
And
Jill.
look at the beautiful trees around her and plants, I should say, or shrubs. Unless I'm calling them the wrong terminology, but how would you describe what's behind you in a nutshell?
Well, I got some trees and planters back there, Norfolk Island pine, and then just some house plants here that I'm kind of experimenting with and growing.
Great trees and plants. Thank you so much. You have a fantastic day and looking forward to our next conversation. Enjoy.
Thanks, Jill.
Bye bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.